I'm your host, Kelly Morgan, indie author and indie publisher. Welcome to another episode of The Author's Mic. Welcome to today's episode. Hey everyone, Kelly here. Welcome to another episode of The Author's Mic. And so today we are going to talk about podcasts. Guess what? Because that's what you're looking at is a podcast. And so we're going to talk about them from an author perspective. Because I think podcasts are very, very powerful for authors, and some of us may not even know the power and the strategic way that you can use podcasts as an author. And so they are one of the most accessible ways to share your story, right? You get to talk about your book. You get to talk about your journey. You get to talk about the why behind your book. And people hear your voice. In some instances, they see your face. And there's just something powerful about an author talking about their book, talking about the why, talking about the message. And readers really get the opportunity to connect with you beyond the page when you're on a podcast, right? You also get to engage with the podcast host. They get to ask insightful questions. And you really get the opportunity to really get you out there, right? That's such a great way to market yourself as an author. It's a great way to step out from behind, what am I trying to say? It's a great way to step out from behind the other side of the camera and now get in front of the camera, right? So maybe you've been posting all this time just showing us your book. Maybe now we actually get to meet you and hear you. And I think that's such powerful, right? I think that's such power when it comes to a podcast and an author and the way that you are marketing your book. Right now, there are some podcasts that do charge fees to cover admin cost or whatever, and these could be podcasts where it could be worth it because the reach could be phenomenal, right? And then there are some podcasts who don't, right? There are large podcasts who have huge production, and there's huge podcasts out there. And then there are niche podcasts like the Author's Mic, where we're really talking about the indie author journey. And then there are podcasts that are brand new, right? Just starting out there. There are podcasts about mental health. There's podcasts about weight loss. There's probably a podcast about every single subject you can think about, right? There is a podcast about it. So the key is that if you are an author, right, and you thinking, you know what, podcasts might be the way to go to really, gain visibility, get some new readers, get some new eyes. I'm going to go on podcast. The key is alignment. Your book, your message, your story has to align with whatever the platform of the podcast is, whatever they talk about. Got to align with the podcast host as well. So ask yourself these questions. Does the audience align with your book, right? Do you think that this podcast would be interested in whatever your book is about? Does the host align with your message? That's important because the host is the one doing the show. So it's got to align with whatever message, mental health, weight loss, education, whatever, right? Fashion, doesn't matter. It's got to align. And then, does the topic align with what you want to talk about? So can you take, stuff out of your book and talk about it? Can you talk about your journey, how you even wrote the book? That's something to talk about. You can even talk about the characters about the book. Is the book nonfiction? Is it fiction? Is it historical? Is it romance? Is it a thriller? All types of things. But the bottom line is, does the topic align, right? And when you approach a podcast, ooh, baby, you got to be prepared, right? And so when you approach that podcast, you got to have all the ducks in a row. And one way you can do that is through the media kit. Do you have a media kit? Do you have a clear bio? Can you articulate your book in a way that it makes sense to the readers? Can you tell the podcast host why you wrote the book, who the book is for, what you hope readers take away from the book? Do you understand the podcast visibility, right? And then you have to understand that Podcast visibility may not translate into immediate book sales, but it could build recognition over time. So, see, to me, podcast isn't about a book sale. Podcast is about expanding your visibility and your reach and putting yourself in front of audiences that you may have not had access to. Podcasts live beyond social media, right? They're on platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcast and Google Podcast, and they sit there, right? They don't go away. There are 1,000 bajillion million podcasts out there, you guys. Some of them are inactive, but the shows are still on these platforms and people are still listening. So people can discover episodes months later because they sit there. That's the beauty of podcast, right? And that's visibility. Now, getting on podcasts can be time consuming, right? Because let's talk about it. What do I always say about time? Time is currency. Treat time like currency. So, if you decide that the podcast strategic marketing plan is your lane, then let's talk about a couple of things because it's going to take you some time. Number one, you got to find them, right? You got to find them. You got to make sure that they align with your book, your message, whatever you got going on, they got to align. So once you find them, you got to do your research. Got to find out what the podcast is about. When do they air? When do they record? All of those things. Are they video? Are they voice? Are they both? How does that work? Are you prepared to go on to a podcast? Do you have the equipment to record? Do you have a quiet place to do that? Those are things that you need to think about. And then reaching out. A lot of podcasts will have like a certain way that they want you to reach out to them, right? It's not just sending them an email. They may have a form like I do. They may have a whole process, right? You may have to pitch them. I've pitched podcasts where I've had to go through several rounds before I was selected. So yeah, it's time consuming. It means follow up. Right. So once you pitch those podcasts, you have to make sure that you are following up. Right. So you research, you reach out, you follow up. All of those things are time consuming, but can you do these things yourself? 100%, 100%. But guess what, y'all? That's where TrustBridge comes in. Now, TrustBridge, if you're not familiar, is a curated directory that I have that has aligned podcast. So these are podcasts that I've established relationships with, and they've agreed to look at my introductions of authors as long as they align with their platforms. Guess what? And that's what I'll do for you. So I do all the heavy lifting. Not only do I curate the introduction, I create the media kit and I do all the follow-up so we know what happens. And then once you're on the podcast, the rest is up to you. So if you want to learn more about how TrustBridge works, go to brightheadedpublishing.com, click on TrustBridge Author Services, and you can get all the information there. You can also use the code Worthy25 to get $25 off of any service, right? Now, here's something that I want you guys to understand. The Author's Mic is my podcast, and I have guests on every Monday. It is a part of TrustBridge, but it's not because it doesn't cost you anything. So the Author's Mic is like your one freebie. If you've never done a podcast before, come on the Author's Mic, right? Get comfortable with the process and then decide if this is your lane to help you gain visibility, right? Podcasts give people access to your voice. Podcasts put you in front of audiences that may not be familiar with you. Podcasts give you the opportunity for real reach, and podcasts give you the opportunity for real visibility. So if it's your lane, check out TrustBridge. And then guess what? If you decide that, you want to do this on your own, I even have a standalone media kit for $199. You know what? I think podcasts are great. I would love to help you and have you be a part of TrustBridge, but you know what, y'all, like I said, you can do it yourself, right? Either way, it's a strategic move to help you market that book. All right, let me give you my laundry list of things before I let you go. If you are an author, not an author, but if you're a creative in this space and you want to be a part of the Author's Mic, guess what? Go to my website, go to the Be a Guest tab. Boom, you are a guest. No pressure, right? It's very easy. And guess what? That you can kind of stick your toe in that podcast world if you've never done it before. If you are an author and you're on your writing journey, I have a guide. It's called So You Want to Write a Book. It's free. It's on my website. Go get it. It's information that I think is very helpful to you as an author. It's all free. Go get it. Start your journey. If you are interested in supporting me, I've got two books. Wait for It, which is an audiobook, two and print, and then You Sound White, which is just print. I sell the books myself. I'm happy to ship them to you at no charge. I've got some free goodies. I'll sign them. But guess what, y'all? You can get them wherever good books are sold. And if you choose to get the book in any capacity, I do thank you. I truly appreciate it. It makes me very happy. And lastly, guess what? Brightheaded Publishing, we have a book club, right? It's called the Indie Reader Society. This is a two-part ask. Number one, as a reader, if you are interested in supporting indie authors, joining the book club's a great way to do it because all we do is read indie authors. My goal for 2026 is to grow this book club as big as I can get it, not for me, but because when we read somebody's book, think of all the eyes, y'all, that we could put on that person's book, right? Phenomenal. So join us as a reader. If you are an author, you can pitch us, right? Go to the website, pitch us. We don't know about your book if you don't tell us, but if you pitch us, come correct, media kit, all that great information. We would love to evaluate your book and determine if we want to read it, but we don't know if you don't tell us. So you can join us ways as a reader, and then you can pitch us as an author. All right, y'all. This has been an episode of The Author's Mic. Again, I talked about podcasts and how, they can help you build that visibility. Just remember, if you decide that this is your lane, right? It takes time. You got to find them, you got to research, you got to reach out, you got to follow up. But if you decide that all of those things are too time consuming, then give TrustBridge a try. Go to the website, go to TrustBridge Author Services, and learn all about it. All right, you guys. I'm going to catch you next Wednesday. Go out and make it a great day because I'm going to try. I'll catch you next time.